they're real. Demons do exist. They're not fake. It aggravates me that people think that these things are imaginary. They're not. Which is one of the reasons why today I'm going to describe to you what these beings actually are from what I have experienced and what I know in mediumship. This isn't something that's based on a religious viewpoint or mythology or ideology or a closed-minded thought or idea. These things exist, and it's time the truth is exposed. Demons come to us in many forms. They all have their own different characteristics and traits. Just like people on Earth, they all have their own attributes, their own skills, their own goals and agendas, their own idea of who they want to target and to deceive. They're not all that predictable, but they do come in a way to us in a very predictable manner. But it's cunning, it's creative, and so many have been falsely accused of being crazy, when in truth, they were actually dealing with something preternatural. They come in threes. The synchronization of threes happens because of the mockery of the Holy Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. The reason this is still questionable. It's still a mystery. But I think it has a lot to do with the fact that Jesus Christ, is an ascended master. And because of this, they fear him. They mock him. But it's not just Jesus. It's also based on the fact of the holy standpoint, the reason for why they come to us in this way. And one of the major reasons is because of their traits. They come to us in a three-stage point. The three-stage point is based on how they come to us in their own craftsman way, based on their own ideas and agenda. But each one has a different trait. But these traits all come in threes, regardless. The first way to invest is through infestation. The way they come into our lives is based on infestation. How does infestation work? Through the power and the free will and the choice of the soul, the human person that invites them in. Whether it's through Ouija boards, whether it's through witchcraft, Wicca, satanic rituals, or through just calling on to these entities asking for proof. You'd be surprised how many people actually ask for proof for these entities to manifest. And when this happens, many people regret it. Infestation happens in numerous amounts of ways as I have listed. However, it's not only to be limited to those. These things can also manifest into our lives based on where we live. The land that we live in or move to, where we are drawn to, can also cause these entities to be attracted to us. Many people experience these entities based on the infestation period. But so many at the same time are very unaware that it is happening right under their nose. After the infestation period, there comes oppression. Oppression is where the entity then takes hold of the victim that they choose in the household. It could either be one person or multiple, but very rarely do they choose more than one person. The reason this is based on their sole focus on the one person that has the least amount of resistance through sheer will. This resistance is what causes the entities to choose those that are less resisting, those that are more easily deceived, those that are more easily maneuvered to believing that they are so isolated that there is no one else that will help them. Make them feel alone when there's a crowd. Make them feel as if they have no hope out of this hell. But in the period of oppression, it's also based on what they do. This is where the entity starts to manifest in certain ways. The list is extremely long, but I'll at least do what I can to give you a brief list here. This list consumes many different various amounts of ways on how the entity actually manifests into the human's home. Paranormal activity can happen in various amounts of ways. But when these activities occur, you have to keep in mind of what time of day it happens. Most often, demonic entities will manifest and start doing their mischief behavior at 3 a.m. in the morning. Between 12 a.m. and 4 a.m. is primarily their time, the witching hour, or the psychic hour that people say. But to establish the understanding that 3 a.m. again is very significant because of the highest velocity of psychic energy in the universe. This energy heightens at this time. It's like this all over the world. During the course of the oppression, people may also experience things like sounds, bangs, whispers, voices, and any other out-of-body elements that one cannot explain. When these things occur, you have to keep in mind of what time and how your body feels. Pay close attention to your emotions and to what you're thinking and visualizing in those moments. It's important to note that if you have a lot of fear in these moments, keep in mind of how the fear manifested into yourself. Was it based on the actual incident that occurred? Or was it based on the mind tricking you? Keep this in mind. We do have to keep our sensibility intact. The entity likes to also manifest through smell. Rotten eggs and rotten meat is a very common impression these entities will manifest with. If you happen to have paranormal activity in the time when you're also smelling these scents or feeling negative emotions, feeling frightened, terror, sheer terror, please take this as a fair warning. Another note is to remember that these entities also have high psychic advanced abilities. These entities know everything about you. They know your fears, they know your worst nightmares, and they'll invest into that. They will focus on that. So whatever it is that you are deathly afraid of, you will have these manifest in many ways. This also implies through dreams. If you have experienced terrifying nightmares, so lucid that you wake up screaming, shaking in a cold sweat, or you wake up at 3 a.m. after these dreams in terror, this is another sign. These things do happen. It happens to people all over the world. I too have experienced this when I would help clients. Countless clients that have had these problems. But another thing to remember is these entities have very strong abilities like levitation. This is very, very rare, but it happens. Have I experienced this myself yet? No. But it happens. These entities can levitate any object they desire through the manipulation of the energy frequency in the universe. They also have the cunning ability to dematerialize and rematerialize items. If you find that your items start disappearing without a trace, especially after you were just with this item, Maybe it was something small, maybe it was something big. But when this happens and you start noticing things start to disappear, reappear, or maybe never reappear at all, this could also be a sign. The reason again is because of their high stricken abilities. They're very powerful. So powerful, people have also experienced being pulled out of their bed, being pushed, being shoved, being whispered to the point where they're also being screamed at with no physical body anywhere to explain this phenomenon. These entities are cunning, they're deceiving, and they have no empathy for humankind. They target children, women, and men. They don't target just one type of person. They don't have a stereotype. People even assume that these entities will only target certain people, like witches and Wiccans and satanic rituals and mediums. That's not true. The reason why they do target those people, however, very commonly, is because they do dabble in things that maybe they're not aware of, and maybe do, in fact, contact something that they weren't aware of was dangerous. But most often, people of high faith, whether Buddhism, Hinduism, Christians, or Catholics, either way, even an agnostic or an atheist can experience these things. It doesn't matter on the belief system, but it does happen. They don't have a closed-minded idea. They just focus on you, the individual, and what scares the hell out of you. That's their goal. Most often people will experience that those that are closest to God, closest to heaven, closest to love, in an ascended way, consciously, are a higher target. This is true. Especially their faith. Their faith is what rattles them, is what they want to break. People with a strong faith are a higher target in times. Statistically, it has been known to do this, but that doesn't mean even those without faith are not just as in the liking of an attack. The next step is possession. After this moment, this is where the entity takes control of the person that they are targeting. Possession is where the entity takes control of the victim. They can go into the body in numerous amounts of ways. There is no real limit to how they enter the body. But more so, one cunning thing people need to know is these entities don't take control of the human without the human's free will. Because without oppression, without targeting, without bashing down their free will, the entity would not be able to take part in the third step. By the time the victim gives in to their free will, that is when the possession starts to take place. The signs of possession of an individual are deceiving because they try to trick you and make you think that the person is crazy, but they're not. There are many ways to tell if a person is possessed. The individual that is possessed or dealing with possession will not consciously be aware that it may be happening at all. They may experience moments where they wake up sleepwalking, when normally this isn't their norm. If this happens, please keep this noted. Another sign is outrage, outbursts of anger, with no explanation. The entity with physical outbursts in the human victim will be outrageous at best. These entities will have massive amounts of anger to the point where the victim's eyes could turn black. So the darkness envelops and overtakes the victim. And the reason why their eyes go black is because the pupil now is fully expanded. Do I really understand the concept of exactly how this works and why? No. I won't tell you that I have all those answers. But I will tell you this is normally wise because the pupil is so overwhelmingly large that it overtakes the eye. When this happens, usually, most often, the person, the victim, will not be able to explain why they got so angry. It could be over even the most minimal of things, something so small that it doesn't make sense. It's also commonly known for the person that is being allegedly possessed is to have enormous amounts of strength. This strength could be so strong as far as up to 4 men. This is a huge sign, so please keep this noted. This usually won't be known unless the person is physically and emotionally outraged. Another sign during possession is the way they speak. If they start speaking different languages with no sign of how they learned them, keep this warned. Another sign is how they know things that they would never be able to know. Psychic ability in the possessed is a very fair warning. The reason why this is because they are starting to possess, starting to understand concepts of the consciousness of the other side. Having psychic abilities is one of the reasons. Does this mean that psychics are possessed? No. This is based on the behavior of what the entity, the demon, has. Entities all have psychic abilities, so advanced that they'll be so accurate, more accurate than your average psychic. And the reason this is because of how cunning and how wise these ancient beings are. If the individual starts to hate religious figures, such as the Pope, nuns, priests, or even areas that are holy, like a church or a sanctuary, places that people would normally go for spiritual enlightenment, this is something to be warned of. If they start to despise the cross, Jesus pictures, God pictures, or anything that is basically spiritual at best, that is positive and light and vibration, whatever it is, it could be any other religion, and they despise it, this would be something to take note of. There are a few experiments to tell if a person is in the dealings of a possession. If the alleged possessed person starts to speak in different tones, this would be something to be aware of. The tones in a possessed person are very different, very specific, and they're very ancient. And the reason why I say this is because they'll start speaking in different vibrations of velocity and frequency. And this is not your loved one or the person, the targeted victim, that is speaking this. This is the voice of the entity. This is the voice of the demonic figure, the demonic entity that is coming through, speaking through the human soul, through the human target. When you hear their tone, you hear the voice, it's enchanting, yet terrifying. And when this happens, you'll know that it's not the human that you once knew. Those that are dealing with the alleged possession will not be aware that they are possessed. They won't be able to tell you. They won't be able to really experience or to really understand what's going on. It's important to ask the person certain questions. Don't lead them to what you're suspicious of, but see what they say. Most often, those that are in the possession state won't really remember any of the things that they actually do, especially certain aspects of like an outburst. They won't remember. They'll actually have a hard time in really recounting certain specific things. Some will even experience memory loss. This is a severe hesitation and struggle for those that are in a possession state. But eventually, after a while, the possessed, the alleged possessed person, could be fully taken apart free will in an aspect to the point where they have no control anymore of their body. They'll start to completely change. This happens to people all over the world. And when this occurs, they start to look as if to the outside world that they're crazy, that they're mad. Most often they become serial killers. They become rapists. They become murderers. They start to kill animals for no reason and have joy in it. Or they start to isolate completely from humanity and start doing things that are abnormal, things that don't make sense. But it's very important to understand that you need to keep intact with medical advisory as well. Don't just take everything that I say on a spiritual aspect and assume that it's all spiritually based and that it's all accurate. It is advisable to make sure that you rule out any medical conditions, making sure that the ailments that I suggested are not based on just the spiritual aspect first, but rule out what could be medically described and explained. This is advisable with every person. In order to ensure the safety of the individuals in the home, especially if you feel as if you may be dealing with a demonic presence in your home or work environment, it is advisable to start cleansing the environment immediately. Do not hesitate. But be forewarned, the second you start to do this, the second the entity is aware that you are aware of its presence, that's when the impact and the terror may escalate further. But don't stop. What is advisable is to do a few things that I suggest. Number 1, sage. Sage is incredibly powerful. People think it's weak, it's not. Or you can also use frankincense. Either way, you take it, burn it around your home and the environment, and you say, only love, light, and positivity may reside here. All negative entities must leave the premises now in the name of God and love. When you say this, keep your ground and stand firm in the statements that you make. Do not have fear in your heart or in any way in your tone. Stand your ground. This is your home. This is your environment. They don't belong here. When you do this, I advise all clients to ask for higher realms' help. So you can call on angels, guardian angels, and ascended masters is advisable. Whichever ascended master you call upon, angel or alike, doesn't matter. What matters is the comfort and the feel of the protection that you're getting from the other side. What I also suggest is holy water. Holy water is something you can make at home. People don't know this, but you can. You don't have to get water that is just blessed in a church or in by some holy person. You can make your own holy water at home. You simply get a glass of water, and then you make a prayer asking God to make this now a blessed space. It takes a few seconds. The second you feel that this water is done, because that's how fast it is, the second the water is blessed and termed holy. Once this happens, you are then able to sprinkle the water everywhere all over the premises, on you, the persons involved, and around the outside of the home as well. As long as you do this with confirmation that everything you're doing is in the name of love, you should be fine. The sooner you do this, the sooner you can evacuate and get rid of the entity. The next step that I also advise is to take olive oil. Olive oil has natural properties in it that are very positive in nature. And what I usually tell each client, especially if you are feeling and experiencing physical attacks, this is highly advisable. Take a dab of olive oil on the tip of your finger And you do a cross on your forehead, on your wrists, on your ankles, above the navel, and along the small of your back. The reason this is to prevent the entity from physically harming you in any way. This isn't witchcraft. This is based on a way of being creative at best and being able to keep the entities at bay. Most importantly, when you have energy and feeling and confirmation in yourself that what you're doing is right, in order to keep the entities at bay, it will be. The reason we do this by the cross is, again, because the symbol of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. This is, again, based on the ascended Master, Jesus Christ, or Yeshua. When you do this, this gives the entity a knowing that you are being protected by Him. This is just another creative way. It helps many clients, and it's helped me countless times. The reason why you put it on your forehead is because it prevents the entity from attacking your dream state and your mental activity in your mind of negative thoughts. More importantly, to help you to keep control of your free will. This is important. The other aspect and tip that I have is salt. Doesn't matter what kind of salt. Table salt, sea salt, whatever you prefer. Use salt by taking sprinkles of salt around your bed and also around your entire home or around your bed and at every door and window. The reason this is to prevent the entity from attacking you physically. It creates a barrier of safety and love. The same as you do with all of these other things, you would say again, in love, light, and positivity, only love may cross this barrier. Only positive entities may cross this barrier. When you are doing this, you are asking God and ascended masters and angels to help you to stay safe from the physical implications and attacks, and mental and spiritual. The reason why to do it around your bed is because the unfortunate reality that there are demons that are sexual in nature and are physically inclined to attack us in that way. This is true. I've experienced this, and many other clients have come to me begging for help because of this. It's unsettling, but it's true. What you would do is you again make the circle around your bed. Some people have asked, do crosses in household make it more safe? Yes and no. It actually can anger the entity more. So please be aware that if you find your crosses disappearing, or again, if you're finding your objects of holy grails disappearing, whatever it is that you feel that is spiritual, and they start to dematerialize, or they're broken for no explanation, this is usually based on the demon being angry at best and making their presence known in this way. Doing these steps will ensure the safety of you and your family, or those that you love that may be going through this. You have to keep yourself grounded, and you have to keep yourself safe. The recommended time frame of doing these things, these safety precautions, would be best noted to do it weekly. But sage, I suggest to do every day. Salt, however, weekly. Holy water every other day. And olive oil every 2 days. The reason this is to keep the balance of the continual protection going on. Sage every day, I suggest, because it's similar to a repellent, only it's for spiritual activity. It keeps them at bay. It keeps a wall barrier in a physical, spiritual sense. And this helps in many ways. I do this regularly just because of how much that barrier is so important. especially those that are in a spiritual lifestyle, those that are mediums, those that are enlightened. There is a spiritual warfare. This is true. The spiritual warfare is based on the negative entities that strive for control. They strive to beat up those, in a sense, to weaken their sheer will. There is a universal law of free will. These entities are not damned. They chose this lifestyle. They chose this behavior. There are different levels of types. They are, in a sense, have what I call the descended hierarchy. The descended hierarchy is similar to the angel hierarchy. However, the descended hierarchy ranges from different aspects, such as different levels of demons, creatures, and devils. If you want to learn more about these entities, please go to my website at lastfrontiermedium.com. There you can learn more about otherworldly entities, not just demonic, but angels, ascended masters, spirit guides, and earthbound souls. If you have questions or feel you need help in dealing with getting rid of one of these kinds of entities, please go to my website and I'll do the best that I can to respond.